The challenge of being a human being is the struggle between our emotional self and knowledge. Knowledge is a very important component of being a person, and knowledge is an absolute requirement for life, of course. Like if I wanted to become a doctor, right? I'd have to go to school and get specific training, and then I could learn skills and have the information to be able to execute my job, right? And often, when it comes to dealing with matters personal to ourselves, we seek knowledge, right? And knowledge can be very helpful in understanding, what's going on in our world. The challenge is that while knowledge is a very vital component of understanding, there's another level of understanding that knowledge fails to address. And this failure is something that can become very distressing for people. How many of us look at our lives retroactively, and hindsight's 2020? And when you're looking at yourself and you're looking at your life, you'll have thoughts like, I know better than this. Like you've made the same mistake again. And you're trying to figure out how that could happen, especially given you've been through that before. That is a particular challenge, especially for people that have gone through narcissistic abuse, because these are not people that just lack confidence. These are not people that are not intelligent. These are not people that lack knowledge. There's people that have gone on to get a PhD in psychology, to go out in the world, make a difference, and their knowledge is something that empowers them to make a difference for other people. And then that same person can discover, oh my gosh, I married a narcissist. And often the presence of our own intelligence and knowledge, when we feel like we failed ourselves in some way, having knowledge could actually compound these notions of self. Like, gosh, like what's wrong with me? Like, how could this happen? Like, I know better than that. You see, because there's an area of the human experience where knowledge makes very little difference, unfortunately. That you could even understand your history, your past. You could see the correlation between your childhood and your current life. You could say, I had narcissistic parents and I keep meeting narcissists. And you could even know the terminology. And yet, knowing the terminology, like I have a trauma bond and I'm in cognitive dissonance and these people are narcissists and they do this and do that, it often falls short of protecting us in the moment of living our lives, and can often compound our resignation. Because you see, when you know that you know better, yet there's a certain level of defeatedness or even darkness that is something that can happen to people that know that they have the necessary knowledge to succeed, the necessary knowledge to make informed and quality decisions. What we fail to really notice is that the patterns through which we see and experience the moment of our lives is not based on knowledge. It's not based on knowledge at all. And so the way that our mind forms an understanding that becomes the basis of our choices is something that is powerfully catalyzed by emotional experiences. And these emotional experiences always seem to come from outside of ourselves. And that is why we are always left in life able to retroactively look over our life and take an inventory of it, and have this notion of hindsight is always 2020. But the reason I'm sharing this video is because people ask me about my coaching, right? And they want information. They want to try to understand it. And it's a big challenge to really share what to expect from this experience, because this experience isn't going to exist entirely in the domain of knowledge. That many of you, even myself, would have enough knowledge to understand what is happening. However, that isn't the way that the mind works. That we exist intellectually and consciously, but we have often profound and undiscerning or indistinguished boundaries and barriers that impact the way that we experience ourselves in the moment in which we live. That our decision making, even when informed by knowledge, is still profoundly impacted by the emotions that we experience in the moment. And those emotions give context. They give concerns about the future or about the implications of our decisions. Or they give us hope, or they give us positive feelings. And these emotions are what make us feel safe or inform us that, maybe there's something wrong here. And for people like me that grew up in environments that developed us into people pleasers, you start to see that there's this phenomenon that's hard to describe for people that have not experienced narcissistic abuse, is that, these people are often indistinguishable to us from everyday people. And so even people with a lot of knowledge that get out of these relationships learn all the terminology, red flags and cognitive dissonance and trauma bond. They can often still be left afraid of relationships or afraid of life or afraid of having this happen, because even to them, before even learning all this stuff, when you look back at that relationship and you're like, oh my God, how did this happen? I should have known better. And that should have known better, even when compounded with more knowledge, can cause even more profound resignation, more profound knowledge of like, I should have known better. I'm not good enough. There must be something really wrong with me, that I'm too intelligent for this. I know better. I've learned this lesson 10, 20, 30 times, 3, 4 times, 5 relationships. Well, that is where we go to work. That is where we go to work. That's certainly, I'm somebody that should be too smart to have these things happen. And so are you. But what is it that's really going on for people? There is obviously a correlation between their past experiences and what's going on now. But you see, just understanding that correlation and talking about your feelings and where they came from fails to address the situation. There's many people who have been going through therapy or things, and they become very aware of this correlation between their past and their present. But there is a way to address that. There is absolutely a way. And when I talk about things like breakthroughs, I'm not just talking about feelings. I'm not just talking about finding yourself again. I'm not just talking about getting out of the darkness. I'm talking about not only that, but opening your eyes and really having a profoundly expanded view of what's actually taking place. What would that be like if saying no did not conjure the same level of guilt or fear, or you didn't live your life being conflict avoidant because of your childhood, or when you're in the moment with someone new that you're considering for a relationship, your focus wouldn't be on whether they like you or not, whether they make you feel safe, or whether you feel comfortable, or whether they provide you with the kind of validation that would, make you feel alive and waken you up. But rather, you're already there for yourself, that you're already complete, that you're not going through life trying to resolve the same challenges. You're not on the yo-yo anymore. You're not looking at life where things outside of yourself have such a profound influence on how you experience yourself or define yourself anymore, that you have found yourself and you have found the way that you choose to define yourself as a person, independent of the thoughts and feelings of others. See, that's something very difficult to explain to people when they haven't really experienced it, because they can't see that as possible through the way that they see life right now. But that is exactly what I do in my coaching sessions. And it is a much faster process than anybody could imagine. So that is why making the video is to just provide a little bit of clarity.